Welcome again to another Getting to Know Your Indiana Neighbor, and you better know this guy. Certainly, if you're from southwestern Indiana, you know that our neighbor tonight is state championship coach and
broadcast partner.
Mike Wagoner. Thanks for joining us, Mike.
Nice to be here.
Well, most people, by the way, where we are right now, of course, you can see at the scorer's bench at Jack Butcher Arena. And I was thinking today, Coach, that in your waking hours of your lifetime, when you think about all the time you've been within the walls of this school, probably not much of an exaggeration to say it's been half of your life.
I would probably say more than half. Starting in, junior high, we had PE in this gym, and I can remember playing, baseball, basketball, you name it, we played in here, and that's probably a pretty good chunk of my life. So it's a great atmosphere, though. I mean, this is the place where I've always wanted to be.
Yeah, I mean, all the practices.
Oh yeah.
Baseball, as you said, inside as well at times, basketball, but more than that, education.
Right.
You were a teacher for how many years?
32 years.
32 years. And you still spend almost as much time in the school today as you did then.
Absolutely. I've been retired for 4 or 5 years, but you've got to stay busy, and I enjoy being around the kids. I enjoy going to all the sporting events. Now I'm seeing kids that I coached in high school, having their kids in junior high, but it keeps me busy, and I really enjoy it.
Normally we start at the beginning of a person's life, but in your case, I'm going to go back a little further. I think a lot of people know that your mother, Mary Wagoner, and your father, it's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Your father was in the service.
Yep.
And brought back a bride, right?
Yeah, he was in Korea, and I'm not sure how many years, but that's where he met my mom. I guess he was on leave and stationed somewhere in Japan, and they found each other. And my sister Ruth, she's the only sibling that was born in Japan, actually. And when my dad came back to the States, I think it was maybe a year later, he sent back for them to come back. They had to take a boat, which back in those days wasn't like the Titanic and real luxury. It was just one of those boats that brings people over from another country. And it was about a week or two, I think she said, trip. But that's where they met. And from there, it's kind of like our history.
Do you have any idea how they met? Because did she speak any English at that time?
Well, I don't think she spoke very much, because she always told me that she taught herself how to speak English. Basically starting over there, but once she got to the States, she really taught herself how to speak English.
And did they talk at all about the process, as you said, a boat, a week or two to get over here? But today there would be paperwork, there'd be quite a process.
Yeah.
Was there anything then, or was it just, hey?
As far as I know, just getting to be a citizen and all the paperwork you had to do to leave Japan to come here. I know her parents weren't happy.
I was going to ask you about
that. She was going to marry an American soldier.
How old was she at the time?
Gosh, I couldn't tell you. I'm going to guess 24, 25 years old maybe. But my sister Ruth was the only one that was born there. And when they got here, it was a transition for her, because she spoke very little English. And I know that my grandmother really helped her out in that department.
Your grandmother on your dad's side?
My dad's side.
Okay. Did your mom ever make it back to see her family again?
One time.
Back
in the early to middle 80s, she went back for I think about 2 weeks, and she hadn't seen him probably since like 1953 or 54 when she got here. And that was the only time she ever went back, and she took a million pictures, and my brother Denny and my sister Ruth, they have all the pictures, and it was quite surreal for her to go back and see everything. And she told me the saddest thing about going over there was leaving and coming back here. I mean, she wanted to come back here, but just seeing her mother and her siblings, because her father had passed away, but it was quite an experience. She really enjoyed it.
So your family, her family, you said mom and dad wasn't happy about it. Had they reconciled through time?
Oh yeah. Mom had kept in touch with them as she got over here, and started to acclimate her life in the United States. But she kept in touch. Of course, back then you didn't have the internet, you didn't have Twitter and all this other stuff.
It's
you either write a letter or
write a letter.
long overseas phone call, which cost a lot of money. But
write a letter, probably get there 2 months later.
Yep. And she did all that. So,
so did she ever express any regrets of leaving her family and homeland to come over here?
I mean, not to me. And as far as I know, talking to my brother and sister, she's never ever regretted, leaving her homeland and coming over here. But I'm sure in the back of her mind, she just missed it all the time because she grew up there, and she lived through one of the bombs, and she's had quite the experience.
And what year were they married?
That I couldn't tell you. I want to say 54.
So, assuming that 9 years after the war, 14 years from the bombing of Pearl Harbor. So your dad brings this Japanese woman over here as his bride.
Right.
You said and did you say that she was an American citizen when she got here?
No, I think she had to
later
process.
On.
Yeah.
Okay, but she was an American citizen.
Yeah.
So he brings her over here, and shoot, Coach, 70 years later today, there are people who are still racist, if you will, against Japanese
and Asians,
and Asians in particular.
Right.
But did she ever talk about, or did you ever see any of that backlash because she was Japanese?
I never saw it toward my mother. Growing up, of course, being half Japanese, kids are kids. They're going to make fun of you. They're going to say this or that to try to get under your skin. But I always let it just fly off the back of my shoulder. It never bothered me. Were kids always nice to me? No. And I can remember like it was yesterday. Hearing it from behind me as I'm walking by somebody. But I never really got too upset about it. Now I can't say that about my brothers. They were pretty touchy about it. But it's one of those things where you see it a lot. We saw it in the last 2 or 3 years. In the United States. But other than that, I never really saw anyone say anything, racist or detrimental to my mother. Never.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah.
And your dad did what for a living?
He's a truck driver all his life.
All of his life.
Yep. Over the road. Over the road.
So
gone a lot.
Gone a lot.
Yeah.
That had to have been even more difficult for your mother.
Yeah. He was gone a lot. Mom would work. I think she started the old textile corporation as soon as she got here. I'm sure she worked there 50 years. I remember the day she retired. She was so happy. But then she had her own little shop, and she did sewing and all that. But she would work 2 or 3 jobs. Growing up, we're all Southsiders. You always, if you wanted money, you had to go put up hay or mow grass, stuff like that. So we all did our share. But yeah, she worked as hard as any woman that I can ever remember.
I remember growing up about the same time you did, and played in the same games that you did, and ran with the same circles at times in those games. And I would hear kids say something to you, but I kind of took it as trash talk because you were their friends, they were your friends.
Right.
It was in the middle of some sort of competition, just having fun. I didn't even, to be honest, didn't even think about it hurting you.
Well, as you say that, I don't ever remember getting mad at anyone saying that to me, especially with the kids that we hung around with.
Right.
I think they were
because you probably called them things.
Well, they were jokingly saying that kind of thing, and it's just that's just kids growing up, and I don't remember anybody being malicious about it. I can remember a couple times in games I heard it from the crowd, but that's to be expected. So
yeah, interesting. So you said your siblings didn't take as kindly to it maybe as you.
No. Fights?
Do you remember?
Maybe. My older brothers were a little bit more, I'd say, rambunctious. I use that word. I do remember. I remember my younger brother, or my brother Rick, when he got mad one time at someone said it to him in high school, and he got in a fight. But he was just, defending himself. I think there's a lot of times why people really didn't say it to me growing up in high school is because my older brothers, were always around. So, but like I said, they were a little more sensitive to it. I'm not saying I enjoyed it, but I just didn't let it bother me.
So we've talked about your mom and dad. Tell me about your siblings.
Okay. My oldest sister Ruth, she's married and a grandmother. I don't know how many times. And her and Marty McRoberts live in Bloomfield area. My brother Denny lives here in town. He's retired from Crane. I think going on, I think he said 15 years maybe.
Keeps busy though.
Yeah, he's busy. Plays a lot of golf. My sister Brenda lives in Terre Haute. Oh, I'm sorry, Indianapolis. Her and Brent Prather have been married for forever. I think since 75, 76.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
She's married to Brent Prather.
Yeah,
I
Brent
did
Prather.
not know that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Got some beautiful girls.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother Rick, of course, he passed away in '81 in a car accident. Actually coming back to Washington to pick up his wife because he had just gotten a new job in Indy, and he had a car accident and passed away in that accident. And of course, that's my younger brother Pat.
Your buddies growing up, who'd you run around with?
Well, I tell you, there's a lot of different people. Back on the South Side, we ran around with Mark Tramball and Kelly Sissel and all those guys.
Kelly Sissel, I haven't heard that name
those
in a long
old
time.
names, yeah, down in there. Bill Harder, Billy Tramball. We all hung out. Our families kind of hung out together. Morgan Patterson, Steve Nolan, Rick Colvin. You know that group, but I won't bring it up.
Oh,
we might bring it up.
Yeah, we might bring it up.
But in high school, once you start doing sports, your group kind of changes.
Right.
If those same kids don't, stay in the sports that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Dave Strange, Richard Bloodsaw, probably two of my closest classmate buddies. I can go on and on, but that was mainly the group. When you have sports teams, you kind of gravitate toward those guys. Grew up playing baseball with Phil Erler, Kelly Lamar, and those guys, Kenny Nigg. So it was a fun time because we meshed in pretty well as a family. We used to call it.
What was your favorite sport to play growing up?
Well, I tell you, I love baseball as much as I love basketball. We were always successful, but I can remember growing up probably playing basketball outside a lot more than baseball. We do the pickup games, the back in the backyards and out here and playing stickball. But I always wanted to be a basketball player, and my first memory of playing outside was just down the road here, just on the Davis County line where the Waltons lived. Roger Walton, Steve Walton,
Sure.
Larry Walton, Mark Walton. We always played there because they had the only goal with the light on it. We could play all night long.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how many Friday nights and Saturday nights there'd be 15 people out there playing basketball.
Well, you probably remember later on, not too much later, but the Deer Westers had full court.
Yep.
That was the first full court I remember with lights.
Lights, yeah.
And that was quite a treat.
Yeah.
And of course, you'd play in a barn every now and then.
Oh, yeah. We'd put a goal up on the side of the barn. And I remember Dennis Birch's family, they had an outdoor court out there. And at one time it was a full court, played there a lot. But we were just always outside playing, and I really did. I liked basketball a little bit more, but I loved baseball. I loved every second of playing baseball.
And you were kind of like us, if I remember. You guys moved around town a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me where you lived.
We lived on the Lincoln Avenue out by the city park.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
As a matter of fact, about 2 years ago, I was walking and I walked by there and our house was still there. The next week I walked by there, they were starting to tear it down.
Really?
So, yeah, and it's completely gone now.
Okay.
We lived there for, I think till I was in 7th grade. Then we lived up where Muffler Menders is right now. There used to be a 2-story white house. We lived there, I think, all the way through my high school career. And then we moved back down by the nursing home where you guys ended up living for a while. Lived there for 4 or 5 years.
That was our home. We built the home. Yeah.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah, I loved that atmosphere down there. And then when all the kids were gone, Mom and Dad had a little house. That was, actually, right now, it was right across from Eric Ackerman's house. But that house had been demolished, and somebody else built a home there. And then Mom decided to, and we're all gone, and she went into senior citizens housing for years. But yeah, we moved around quite a bit.
All right, so we'll bring up the youth center basketball. All right, well, just to get it out of the way.
Right.
But, all right, tell your story about your group and your amazing championships.
Well, I mean, anybody that's our age remembers the youth center. I mean, that's just where you went.
You'd play till you couldn't.
Yeah, you had your curfew go off at 10:15, and you got on your bike and got home. And on weeknights it was 11:15, and the goals were outside of the parking lot right now, which is the police station.
Right.
They had 2 goals. They had metal backboards and chain rims. You ever got your hand caught on there, you're going to be hurting. But we played there almost every single night if we didn't have a game, or if we were somewhere else. Growing up in junior high, if you didn't hang out at the youth center, you didn't go anywhere. That's just where you went. And there was always a basketball game up there. And then we had a group of us. It was Steve Nolan, Morgan Patterson, Rick Colvin, me. I can't remember all of them, to tell you the truth, right off the bat. Robbie Lentz, J.D. Greenwell, Johnny Clemens, and can't forget John.
Yeah.
We were just playing one night, and we said we got to think of a name, because we all five played together, and those two guys would play if somebody else wasn't there all the time, and we always played the same group. So somebody, I don't know if
it sounds like a Rick Colvin term.
Well, it could have been Rick Colvin, and I might give Rick credit, but we called ourselves the Cool Jive Five, which back those days, those were the kind of words you used, cool and jive and all that. But we're legendary, and you know it, and everybody knows it. And
well, you know it.
According to Rick and I think we lost one game out of 105, something like that.
According to Rick.
And if Dave Blackwell watches this, he'll deny everybody.
Dave will watch. Yeah, Dave will watch. It was interesting because back then, and I'm guessing they do today, I don't know, but you'd play shirts and skins. Sometime you'd have people waiting for the winners, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's the last basket. Let's get going again.
Yep.
And playing, sweating, rolling down.
Yeah. If you got beat, you went inside youth center, got your coat, came back, and waited for the next game. I can distinctly remember, nights in December on weeknights, weekend nights. If you had a shovel and there was snow, you got the shovel off. As long as the ball would bounce, you take your jacket off, but you put gloves on because your hands would freeze, and you play basketball. I mean, that's all we did.
That's right. That's right. So you're out there in the playgrounds. Loogootee's already made history throughout the state of Indiana. Who are you on that court?
Well, I can remember on a Saturday afternoon, I think it was in probably 1970 or 71. It could have been either one because we weren't in high school yet. But Richard Bloodsaw and I, and he used to live right across the highway from the gym, would go over there and play on those goals. Of course, there's nobody in town because they're all the regional, they're all the semi-state.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't get tickets. I think we might have been in 6th grade, but we're out there playing basketball while those games are going on. And of course, you're Brian Canada, you're Paul Bruner. Paul was like a family friend of ours. He was always at our house, and Paul, was a great guy. And you're those kind of people. And this is not a cliche, but you're always practicing that last shot that goes in, and we always did that. I mean, I can remember like it was yesterday, playing out there, and remember when we beat Mitchell in the regional. We were actually listening to a little radio, and we were shooting around, playing out there, and listening to the game at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way it was. Yeah. You're right. We didn't get to go to the games.
No.
Necessarily the road sectional. Section we did regional.
Hard ticket to get
as young guys. That's right. That's probably more than anything. We couldn't get tickets.
Right.
We'd love to have been there, but those were the days. So,
I remember in 8th grade when we were in the regional at the Hatchet House. You think being a Loogootee athlete, basketball player might get a good ticket. I sat in the very top of Hatchet House.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as high as you could get.
That's where they put the junior high kids.
Oh, yeah, I guess.
I remember I got my glasses, I think, in 8th grade, and I went up there and I was scared to death I was going to drop my glasses down through, and I was afraid of heights anyway.
Yeah.
But nothing like it.
Oh, yeah. The atmosphere was just amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I know you always still, to this day, lobby to try to get Loogootee kids somehow or other to play in a sectional at the Hatchet House.
Right.
Probably never going to happen.
No, I don't think so. Somewhere down the line we might play a semi-state there, which is still a great atmosphere.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just nothing like it. I mean, I can sit here and think right now of sitting on the top row of the bleachers right behind the rail before we go down the dress, and going in the third quarter and having 2,000 people cheer and almost 6,000 people boo.
Yeah.
That's just a great feeling.
Who were your little league coaches?
Roger Downey.
Roger Downey? Bill Downey.
Bill Downey.
Bill Downey.
Yeah, Roger's dad, Bill Downey. And I can't think of who his assistant was, but he coached me for 2 years.
So you were part of the Reds?
Yep.
The dreaded Reds.
We were the team that was undefeated in the first half and blew it in the second half.
And we were the team that didn't win a game in the first half.
Yep.
We won the second half.
Yep.
And we played this group right here. And it was you, Dave Blackwell.
Dave Strange.
Yep. I mean, dominant. But we had D.D. Crane.
Yep.
We had D.D. Crane.
Yeah.
And we ended up beating them, I think, 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
And that's That's more of a miracle than the miracle on ice tonight. It really was.
Yeah, I remember that. You did not win a game that year.
We did not win
Yeah,
a game
and
the first half.
I was not very happy.
No,
And remember, didn't we play over here when we had the old picket fence?
we did.
Behind.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
yeah, the red picket fence.
Yep, behind.
You know, you talk about Johnny Clemens, and Johnny, if you're watching,
Yeah.
sorry to bring this up, but I do remember Johnny was on the Indians.
Yeah.
And there was a high fly ball, and I'm sure he got caught in the lights. Put his hands up, hit him right in the head.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, and
I remember that. I don't remember
yeah,
that.
but anyway, John, we still love you. All right, so we're beyond Little League now.
Right.
Let's get into junior high basketball in particular. Lee Kavanaugh.
Yeah. You can't mention Loogootee Junior High basketball without mentioning Lee Kavanaugh and what he did for our program. I mean, you know, they always talk about Albert Kavanaugh at Bar Eve. Well, Lee Kavanaugh was our Albert. He did everything for the junior high. There were times, and I'm pretty sure it was when I played, he coached both teams.
He coached 7th and 8th. Yeah.
1 year, both teams were undefeated. It was Bill Butcher's 8th grade year and Kenny Nigg's 7th grade year, I believe. And if I remember right, as the 7th and 8th grader, we lost 4 games total. We won the Jasper tournament, which was a big feat back in those days because they had like 20 teams. But I can remember playing in the JFK gym, and people think about that gym now. When you go to maybe a 5th grade AAU game, there's a few people in there.
Right.
Think about the entire balcony full and the bottom full of students. And I can see the pile of coats in the corner by the ticket booth, like it was yesterday, just piled up to the ceiling. You know, and Coach Butcher would always sit in that one corner up there by his office. He'd have one hand over the rail watching us, and I'm not gonna lie, I was nervous when he came to watch our game.
Now,
because I knew I was gonna be playing for him.
Did you get to a game over there, a high school game?
No, I never saw a high school game there.
Yeah, I never did either.
I would love to have seen one. I'm sure.
I'd love to see some video, but nobody seems to have it.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm sure it was a crazy atmosphere.
Now, St. John's, you saw a few games, right?
I did see a few there. I saw a classic between Steve Barrett and John O'Malley one year, Otwell and Loogootee, and it was just amazing. Both of those guys hit a half-court shot at the end of a buzzer. It was just, they were so quick. But I do remember seeing a game there, but I never did see a game at the old JFK gym when they were in high school. So
you went to St. John's, and I've talked to a few people who've lived through this, like you and I.
Right.
And the school burns down.
Right.
So you were in what grade? Maybe?
I want to say 4th or 5th grade.
Yeah, you would have had to have been 4th or 5th. So tell me your memories of that. I mean, from the moment you heard about it, you probably went outside your house that night, saw the flames.
Well, I don't remember the St. John's building burning as much as I remember the old Loogootee High School burning.
Yeah, that's amazing too.
Because when we went there, I remember the first thing that when we walked through that place is when going down in the bathroom, we always called it the dungeon. It was way down there in the basement. And I remember when it was burning though, because we were still living out at Lincoln Street by the city park, and my dad had gotten us up and said, "Look toward town." We opened the door, you could just see the flames above everything. I mean, it was amazing. And that's the one thing I remember about that. But I can remember going to school in there.
And to think you had to go now to be a Loogootee Lion.
Yeah.
It's unfathomable, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, if you go back in time, there were a lot of Loogootee St. John's players that, you know, played on some really good teams here.
Right.
But I think consolidation was the greatest thing ever happened to Loogootee.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was.
Whether it was started on purpose or not,
we don't know.
Nobody really knows.
It is amazing that I don't think there's ever been any, maybe at that time they didn't really spend a lot of time on it.
Had to be an old wire or something.
Yeah. So now you're in high school, freshman. Did you play junior varsity ball?
My freshman year, I was actually started out on the freshman team, and we always had a JV holiday tourney and a varsity holiday tourney. Well, the JV tourney was at North Knox, I believe, and Dave Strange and I both played up on the JV, and we won that. And then from then on, we basically split, but played more JV than freshmen. As a matter of fact, there's a story behind that. Our freshman team, we were pretty good. We were like 18-0, and they had won a majority of those games without Dave and I playing because, you know, you had limited quarters. So we get into the blue chip conference tournament at the end of the year, and we were like 18-0. So he's going to bring Dave and I down and play against South Knox. We end up losing. That's the only game we lost that year. I don't know, you know, because just continuity or whatever. But
I'm sure it's no coincidence.
Yeah, but it was pretty crazy. But it was fun. I mean, so my junior year, my freshman year, I split time between JV and freshman.
What was your freshman coach Don Clemens?
Yes,
or Don Clemens.
And we were really good that year. But my most vivid memory of my freshman year is We had a JV game against Petersburg. It wasn't Pike Central yet.
Correct.
It was 74, and JV game's over. And for some reason I didn't play. Maybe we were trying to save quarters or whatever. I wasn't feeling great, you know. Coach Butcher comes in the locker room, looked at me, patted me on the shoulder. He goes, "Get your uniform." I'm like, "Are there any left?" So I got my uniform. Of course, it was real baggy. Back then, it might have been cool, but baggy wasn't cool back in those days. But so I get my uniform. I come out. And the last guy out warming up, I'm like dumbfounded. I'm like, all right, I just forgot the whole routine of warm-ups. You know, I'm lost out there. I'm trying to get in line. You know,
This is the varsity line.
Varsity warm-up. But the only game I ever dressed as a freshman. Of course, it was amazing if you're a freshman, if you ever dressed or not.
Right.
But so we're out there warming up. I'm starting to feel pretty good about myself, you know. And it's one of these games where I thought, you know, they're not very good. You know, we're going to get a lead. I'm going to get in the game.
Right.
So through the course of the game, you know, I'm sitting at the end of the bench over there, and it's about midway through the fourth quarter, and everybody has gotten in the game but me. So I'm sitting there, I'm just nervous, you know, just thinking about I'm going to get in here in a few minutes. And of course, you know, Coach Butcher, he just walks up and down the sideline, you know, and there's about a minute and a half to go, and I'm like, all right, he's going to call timeout or something. Put me in. He comes down there and puts his hand on my shoulder, and he goes, "Your time's coming, kid." But I think what he wanted to do was make me feel better about dressing because I did play a little JV. But he said, "Your time's coming." And then, you know, was I upset? Sure, everybody got in the game but me, but I understand. I think I understood what he meant.
So that's your freshman year. Now big time, your sophomore year.
Sophomore year.
You start on the JV?
Strictly JV.
All right. By the way, 1975.
1975.
Just so you know.
Yeah. Dave and I were, again, playing in the holiday tournament. I think that was at North Knox again that year. We played really well. Won that tournament. Dave and I started coming off the bench. And after the holiday tournament, Dave would go in either for Kenny Mangley or maybe Mike Walls. They got in foul trouble. I would go in for Kenny and give Kenny Nig and Bill Butcher a rest. And that was our rotation. We had a 7-man rotation. One of the biggest games I remember playing in was against Forest Park. I think we were down 20 at halftime. It was a home game. And he let me play the whole second half. And I don't know how it happened, but man, we just made a heck of a comeback and won that game. And, you know, get to the tournament. And I was probably getting about 2.5 quarters a game as far as time goes. Usually Dave and I would go at the same time. But I remember in the sectional against Pike Central, Kenny Nig was having a horrible game. And I would usually go in somewhere, maybe middle second quarter. Well, I went in the first quarter, and I hit my first 3 shots. So I was feeling pretty good about myself, you know. I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't take any more. I don't want to ruin my chances. But they kept leaving me open. And Pike Central was good that year. They had some Barrett boys playing, and I ended up scoring 20 points that game. And I think I was 8 for 11 from the field. Hit all my free throws. Played really well. And I thought, man, this is great. You know, I mean, I'm going to get to play a lot tomorrow night in the finals against the Hatchets. Well, Hatchets are pretty good. And, of course, you know, he talked to Kenny, and Kenny just had a bad game. It's just one of those games where he couldn't throw it in the ocean. He started that night. I came in second quarter. I hit a shot in the corner. I think I had 4 points. And I remember the article in the paper on that Monday, the Washington paper, they interviewed Coach, and they said, was there ever a thought of you starting the sophomore Wagoner instead of, you know, your starting guard, junior Kenny Nig? And this is his quote. He said, well, we could have panicked and started him. And I read that, and I had to laugh. We could have panicked, but we went with Kenny. And Kenny had a heck of a game that night. We went on to win the sectional. Kind of the same way in the regional in the Summit State. Dave and I would come in and play 3 minutes here, 4 minutes there. Dave had a heck of a game against Terre Haute.
Gershmeyer, I think. Yeah. 75. Yeah.
I think he had 10 points in that game. I had 2. And then of course, that night we blew Seymour out of the water. Just amazing. But, you know, there was nothing like it. That whole season was magical. And I was real happy that Dave and I together found our way in the rotation.
Yeah. So 75 actually would have been Terre Haute North in a semi-state.
Terre Haute North, yeah.
Semi-state.
Yeah.
So, yeah, let's stay there for a moment at Roberts Stadium.
Okay.
Iconic, first of all.
Amazing.
Place.
Yeah. Next to the Hatchet House, probably the most amazing place.
Yeah, and at this point, it seems like we belong there every year, doesn't it? So we're there, 1975. Semi-state, Terre Haute North. I mean, what did we hit, around 75% between the day and the night?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was just amazing.
Incredible.
And coach's mood, do you remember on the bench all day long? Was he up and down? Was he calm because you guys were playing so well? Do you remember anything about the bench?
I don't remember him doing anything out of the ordinary.
I mean, it was like a machine.
Yeah, it was just
all
like
day
it's
long.
like
And
you know, it's time to put these two guys in, see what they can do, and we come in, give us a lift, and it's time to go delay, which we did against Seymour and just tore them apart. But he was pretty calm actually, and I can remember when Bill made that famous pass out of bounds to him, and when he caught it, he was just like shocked.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my, he's going to get mad, but nah, he just kind of chuckled and threw it back out. But that was one of our few turnovers that game, anyway. But I can remember.
Can you imagine if it was a perfect game, no turnovers?
Oh yeah, exactly.
That'd been fine too.
Yeah, but I remember we always had a routine starting in the sectional. You would warm up and go back in the locker room and then come back out. Well, every time we did that, for some reason, Bill always told me to go first. Be the first one out, and we'd do a layup routine, whatever, as we came out the second time. Well, in the final game of the semi-state against Seymour, they had that big curtain across the tunnel down there. I mean, it was huge. And all I could hear was our crowd yelling, Butcher, Butcher, open the door, or whatever. Yeah. And I opened the curtain like that and it peeked through, and I was just like, wow, I was nervous. I was nervous that game. Of course, Seymour had a big crowd too, and they were so huge. And we had no business beating those guys the way we did, but we were so fundamentally sound. And like you said, all Coach Butcher had to do is put us on the floor and tell us what to run. And, that's just how it works.
I've always thought of Bill. Now, this is just my own perspective, just because of he ran that machine.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And I don't know that there's been a better leader in Loogootee Lion history. And I'd like your thoughts, but at the same time, it's just a total opinion, because you've got 5 guys that have to play together all the time. Yeah. And the Loogootee Lions played together all the time.
Well, and you'll probably talk about this later, but the only guy that comes to my mind who was a guard, who was smart, who was your coach on the floor like Bill, would have been Brian Ackerman.
Sure. Yeah.
And I'll say that till the day I die. He's the one that made sure everybody was in the right spot. Bill did the same thing.
Yeah.
Bill would get frustrated with me, and if Bill watches this, he'll probably chuckle, but he would get frustrated with me because, if we make 4 or 5 passes and not cut to the basket or cut right, he'd bring the ball back out and make us do it again. I'd make a pass cut and try to get a layup, instead of running time off the clock. And he would get a little upset about that. And I was just thinking fast all the time, and I was wanting to make things happen. And I remember one time Coach Nante pulled me aside and he goes, you just gotta slow down just a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I remember the talent was there, but to me, you weren't that prototypical Jack Butcher player.
No.
You weren't that one to run the delay or want to run the delay.
If I could throw it behind my back and thread the needle, I was going to throw it, which got me in hot water.
Yeah. But back then people did it, but not on the Loogootee line.
No.
And that, I was thinking about that today. I remember that you were more of kind of a wizard out there, I guess, if you will. And I'm guessing you were a Pete Maravich fan, maybe a Tiny Archibald fan.
Oh, yeah.
Back then, you had those players who would do that.
I love Pete Maravich. I even had the floppy socks. It wasn't because they were cool, because they were really old socks. I had no other socks to wear back in 6th grade and 7th grade.
Yeah.
But it was that's the way I played. I remember when I first got the coaching job, a reporter asked me, he goes, "Well, Coach, are you going to play fast tempo like like you like?" I said, "Well, we're going to do things we always did around Loogootee, and we're going to take care of the basketball." But that's just kind of why I played. I remember one time in sophomore year, my junior year, we just had the Loogootee Lions painted on the end of the floor, and we had chairs around it because the paint was kind of wet. It was a practice. And Coach Butcher said, "Whatever you do down on this end, don't go flying in there and doing a layup." He said, "Stop, whatever." Of course, here I am, I get a steal at half court, going for a layup, and I look, the ball goes in, I land right on those chairs, and they all go flying. Coach goes, "Damn kamikaze." So, I thought that was so funny, but he didn't think it was very funny.
Yeah.
But that was one of those moments where you just react.
So the night of the semi-state, game's over. I don't even know if you have your driver's license. I mean, you've got to be just 16 years old. As a sophomore.
I think I did. Yeah, because I was an older for my class.
Yeah. So what do you remember from that night?
Oh, coming home was amazing. I just know, meeting in here, and we always try to figure
school Monday.
Well, we knew that.
No school Monday.
We always try to figure out a really neat song to sing after every
I remember
tournament
that.
win.
Yeah.
And Bill and those seniors would usually get one together, and I know one. I don't know if it was a regional or semi-state. It might have been a semi-state. I think it was. We sang Blackwater by
Old Blackwater.
Yeah, Old Blackwater,
Doobie
and
Brothers.
we changed the words. You know, those funky Lion fans. It was great. I mean, this place was packed, and they were just screaming and hollering. But I was just I can't remember how much of get together we had. I'm sure we went somewhere, somebody's house. You used to go to Nancy Sterling and Nancy Bell's house a lot. The players would go out there and hang out. And they had a lot of food.
Bob was on the team.
Yeah,
right?
Bob was on the team, and Tom and Mary Lou would have a lot of food and a lot of fun out there. But I'm sure that's what we did. But it was just a blur, and I remember more about the state than I do the semi-state.
Well, tell me a little bit what your memories of the state.
Practice time at Market Square, that was the first state finals held there. On Friday, we had to wear those black Loogootee jackets. You know, they had Loogootee down the side.
Yeah.
Those old warm-up jackets, and because they were getting ready to, I think, freeze that floor for a hockey game that night on a Friday night. Then as soon as the hockey game is over, they're gonna have to change the floor, put it back up there. And I remember there was blue paint in the lane. They had painted it blue. I don't know if it was a chalky paint or what, because every time you fell down, you got blue on it, and it was just different. But warming up the day before in practice, first thing Dave Strange and I did was went to the very top and sat up top and looked down just to see how far it was. And it was like, this is 19,000 people. This is crazy, you know. But it was just an amazing atmosphere, and the practice was great. You know, I don't think the background bothered us at all. Of course, you know, you beat
Columbus
North 52-27. I think that was it.
The trees, right? I mean, you just kind of went around them.
6-7.
Another amazing machine-like performance.
You know, a friend of mine from Jasper who coached for a long time was at that game, and I was refereeing a game I think 2 years ago, and he was reminding me of a story. He goes, I was there in '75 when you guys played Columbus North. He said I was sitting kind of in their section because they couldn't get a seat where he wanted to, and he was watching you guys warm up, and he kept saying, "We're going to blow these guys off the floor."
Yeah.
He goes, "Look how little they are," you know, and they were huge. And so he looked at him. He says, "I tell you what," he goes, "I'll bet you $50 Loogootee wins this game." He goes, "There's no way. There is no way." So I guess he had his son with him. He goes, "All right, I'll have your son hold the money," because they sat right next to each other. And as we were blowing him out, when the game, he goes, that guy kept looking at me and shaking his head. He goes, "What is going on?" You know, that's how methodical we were. And you know, to beat Seymour first and then to beat them as big as they were was amazing.
What'd you do between games?
Went back to hotel and kind of just try to relax, and you couldn't. I mean, we played the second game that time, and you only had a couple hours.
Do you remember what hotel you stayed at?
Yeah, there's a south side. There's a Holiday Inn on the south side, I believe. Yeah. And what I do remember is, I don't know how they found out. There was a bunch of baseball players from Loogootee that had the bottom floors, and we had the top floors.
Okay.
And it was so quick. By the time we got dressed and went back and ate and sat around, we're back on the road to go back to Market Square.
So warm-ups for the state championship game. Do you remember going out there, warm-ups?
Yep.
The feeling was what?
I remember going in after the first warm-up and getting ready to come out and looking at all the fans, and it's Loogootee and Marion, and the place is packed. There's 19,000 people there. I don't know where they came from. But
all over Indiana?
Maybe they wanted to see Loogootee pull another mile miracle, you know. But I remember staying in the tunnel down below the backboard, looking out, and I was just like, wow. I think when I went out, I missed the layup, which is pretty normal for me.
Do you remember Coach's speech or talk prior to going out for that championship game?
The one thing I remember him saying most of the time before we went out, and a lot of times, you know, you're going to talk about your opposition, who's going to guard who's going to do this, and who's going to do that. But he would always say, just do what got you here. He goes, take care of the basketball, block out. He goes, get those loose balls. And he would always say that. He'd say, get those loose balls, and he said, and play smart. He'd always have play smart written on the board.
Then of course, we lost that state runner-up. But you're right. That may have been the Milan Miracle all over again.
We just ran out of gas, honestly.
So 1976, 1977, your junior and senior years, were those the Hatchet years?
Yep.
Yeah. They were pretty good.
Yeah, they were pretty good, but we were pretty good also in '76 especially. A lot of experience back. I think we were 16-4 regular season, and then won our first 2 games in sectional. Had the Hatchets beat actually, and got beaten, I think in double overtime, if I'm not mistaken. and had a couple of chances to win that one, but we lost it, and that was a heartbreaker. Um, we had me and David Strange, Kenny Nigg, Kenny Mangley, Paul Hildebrand, Mark Eichmiller, and Dave Blackwell, Larry Hembry. We all played. My senior year, we were having a great year. I think we were 15-1 going to Mitchell. Last 2 or 3 games of the year. Played an absolute horrible game. Actually, it was Tuesday night of the same week we played Southridge on a Friday night, which would have been senior night. But we're at Mitchell on Tuesday night, and Larry Hembry, if you're watching this, he'll confirm this. We are at the end of the game, and I think we're either down 2 or tied, and I made a foul. It's my 5th foul, and they called it on Larry. For some reason, they gave Larry's number out.
Oh, okay.
And so I stay in the game. We go overtime, and I think I had 8 points in overtime. We end up coming back and beating them, and Larry always reminds me of that he got my foul so I could stay in the game. But that Friday night, I'll never forget it as long as I live. We're like 16-1, because we didn't play 20 games that year because we didn't play the consolation game in the blue chip tournament for some reason. But we're 17-1. I think it's the last game of the year, and it's senior night. And Southridge is huge. I mean, they're always big. I think they were ranked like, I don't know, 8th or 9th in the state. We were 12th or 13th. This is one class back in those days. We were pretty good. We were scoring a lot of points. And I remember this like it was yesterday. Coach comes in the locker room, and he says, "Boys, you had a knockdown, drag out, tough game on Tuesday." He goes, "Let's just go out. Don't anybody get hurt. It's your senior night. Have some fun." He goes, "And let's try to get us a win." That's all he said. And I told Dave, who was coming out, I said, "I think we might go delay tonight." And Dave goes, "I hope not." So anyway, we get out there and we're playing. We ended up beating them 76-60. I can remember it like it was yesterday. Dave had like 28. I had 26.
He just let you play.
He let us play. He honestly did not maybe get up 3 times that night. He just wanted us to relax and have fun. Mm-hmm. We had a ball that night, and that was quite a game. But so we're 18-1 going in the sectional. I think we got the bye and played WC on a Friday night, if I'm not mistaken, and just demolished them, because it was going to be us and the Hatchets in the final game. And or was it Friday? Oh, it was Friday night. Yeah, we got beat Friday night. And Hatchets were big. I mean, they had Steve Bushy, Randy Bushy, Steve. Can't remember his last name. But they were 6'5", 6'6". Sam Grove was about 6'5". But I honestly thought that we could beat them. Mm-hmm. I really did. We played straight up. Well, I remember warming up and then going back in the locker room, and Coach Butcher talking about delay game. And I kept thinking to myself, we want to get out and play. We just beat Southridge by 16 points, and they were huge. But Coach made a decision. It was go out and let's try to make them chase us because they're so big. They did have a height advantage. I mean, every position they were bigger than we were. But ended up losing, I think, 26-24. And of course, you didn't have a 3-point line back in those days. Mm-hmm. We would have hit a few of those. But that was the one game that I always want to get back, because they turned right around and they lost to DuBois in the regional that year. And DuBois went that run. Yeah. And we beat DuBois on our home floor. So.
Yeah, some of those games with Washington. Oh, I mean, every possession, because it's very low scoring. Yeah. Every possession was just so critical. Yeah. And you would have everybody be on the edge of their seats. And that's why it was so exciting. And we've talked about this ad nauseum, but mm-hmm. people in different parts of the state can't understand how that can be an exciting game. Oh yeah. But I can tell you, as a junior high kid, I probably almost had a heart attack a time or two. It was very thrilling.
People don't realize it's strategy. It's not like you're afraid. It's strategy to keep them from scoring, and mm-hmm. you're going to take the best shot you can get. And for 5 years in a row, we won 5 straight sectionals, mm-hmm. and a lot of those we beat Washington in the final game. Yeah. 76 they got us, 77 they got us, and the games are classics. They're all close.
So you didn't know that it'd be your last career high school game, basically until the buzzer went off.
Oh yeah.
What do you remember about that part of it sinking in?
I just remember thinking, I was really disappointed because I thought we could win the game. I really did. And I thought we were going to make a nice run my senior year. We played so well all season. Coach Butcher had let us run a little bit and get a lot of points. I don't remember a single game that year that we ever started out in the delay, but we always went to it, late in the game like we always do, to secure the lead and all that. But that game we started out in delay, and was I in the right mindset? Probably not, because I thought he was going to let us play like we did against Southridge.
So it's not something you practiced all week. I'm guessing you practice it all the time anyway, but not exclusively.
Well, no, not to the point where this is our game strategy. We're going to have to do this and fine tune it, because we knew how to do it. We've been doing it since we were kindergarten.
Right.
But it's just one of those things where I don't think mentally we were prepared to do that, because we've been playing so well, as far as scoring points and getting up down the floor. Don't get me wrong. I'm not second guessing Coach Butcher. I'm just saying that I would like to see how things would have turned out in a different atmosphere of a game.
Yeah. So that's 1977. Where did Averett College come into play?
Well, that's funny that you asked that.
In fact, where is Averett College?
We'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
After high school was over,
grab a drink here.
Yeah, go ahead. After high school,
settle in and have a drink here.
I didn't really have a college that I was going to go to or play. Not a lot of offers. I do remember Millikan College in Illinois sent me some stuff, but I'm like, where's Millikan? Who's Millikan?
Decatur, Illinois?
Yeah. But I just blew it off. But make a long story short, I decided to go to Indiana State, and Blaine Dust, a roommate of mine, or a classmate of mine, played basketball. We roomed together. And I decided I'm going to try out for the team. Of course, Larry Bird's on the team, Steve Reed's on the team, and all those guys, Miley and everybody. But I thought, you know what, I'm just going to give it a shot. And Blaine, if you know Blaine Dust, you talk about Mr. Serious and conscientious. He was my coach, basically. He was getting me in shape. He was making me do these things to get ready to play. And they had a 3-day tryout, and there must have been 200 guys trying out. And it wasn't in the homeless center. It was at like the Hyper building kind of place. We went through, the first day we went through about 8,000 drills, about a 3-hour practice. And he said, I'll leave a note on my door in the morning who comes back the next day. So
Coach was Hodges?
Yeah.
Coach Hodges?
Yeah, Coach Hodges. No, was it King or Hodges? It might have been King first. Yeah. This is before Hodges took over.
Right.
And so 2 days later, we had the next practice. That morning, I looked up there, and by golly, my name's on there. There's like maybe 60 of us. And same thing, we go through drills, and he kind of put us on 3-on-3 and all that, kind of watched us and all that. In my mind, I thought Indiana State needs a guard that can get the ball to Larry Bird at any moment in the game.
And you were that guy.
I thought I could get the ball to Larry Bird better than anybody. Of course, Larry knew where Loogootee was. And we actually had played together before all those practices started in the Hyper building. We played 5-on-5 up and down the floor. He was really nice, cordial. He knew who I was. He knew where I came from. But anyway, I thought I could do that. And I would watch these guards that Indiana State had. I'm not talking about Steve Reed and those other guys, but they had a couple of guards that were on the team that were from Terre Haute that I thought, I'm a lot better than those guys. But anyway, second practice goes pretty well. So he says, all right, this Friday will be our last practice. If you're called back, your name will be on the door. Well, next day I go up there, there's my name. I think there's 20 people left. So they had 4 teams of 5. We went 5-on-5 for almost 2 hours, just 5-on-5. Up and down the floor. They're watching, passing, you're dribbling. I didn't shoot a whole lot because they had a lot of guys that could shoot, but I took care of the basketball, and I thought I had a pretty good practice. And Blaine was there every time watching, making sure this and that. But after that practice, he said, as you know, we have a full roster. He said, well, we can keep 2 in case something happens, in case somebody flunks out or gets hurt or whatever. And he said, we're going to try to keep 2. Well, he said, there'll be a notice on my door tomorrow if we keep anybody. And, he goes, thank you for coming out. He goes, we're impressed with you last 20 people. We thought you all did a great job and all that, but here I am thinking there's 3 guards that are 6'5" I was playing with and 6'4", and, there's no way I'm going to make it. So come back the next day, and there's a note on the door, and he said, after careful consideration and talking to the coaches and watching film, we feel that we have enough with our 14 people or whatever. So I was kind of disheartened, and kind of upset. But
So you came that close to playing against Magic Johnson.
Yeah, or just sitting on the bench and watching anyway. But yeah, it was pretty neat.
I mean, if somebody got hurt or
Yeah,
flunked out,
I loved every minute of it. I mean, it was a great atmosphere, and I got to practice with Larry Bird up and down the floor and all those guys. But I remember this too. My very first day of classes, I had one in an auditorium about 200 people, and I didn't know anybody, so I sat in the back row, got my assignments and all that. And I looked down, and about 3 people down there sat Larry Bird. He's in the same class. I think it was a business class. Never saw him the rest of the year, but maybe he had a tutor or something. Who knows? But I stayed until Christmas break, and I thought about going back. I wanted to play so bad. I wanted to go somewhere and play. So Steve Fisher, who was a teacher here and was the freshman coach in '75, said, "Hey," he goes, "if you want to go to Franklin and enroll and try out after Christmas break, I can get you in." So Steve played there and went to college there. So Steve basically got me in, and I was kind of excited. I went up there and saw the campus, got enrolled, got everything taken care of, met the coach, and first week I was there, I got a new roommate. The guy I was supposed to room with dropped out, so I got a new roommate. Didn't know this guy from Adam. He sat over in the corner and didn't talk, didn't say anything. Here I am, trying to be, cordial and talk to him, but we had a big snowstorm hit about midweek, and I don't know what hit me. I don't know why I decided to do this. That Friday, I packed everything up and went home. I just dropped out. I didn't lose any money because I had some aid and stuff like that, but I just didn't like it. The atmosphere there at that point, I did not feel comfortable with. So I left. Came home. I think I worked at the textile for like 3 months, and then here's where the Averett College comes in. I was talking to Larry Hembry that summer, and Larry was going to go to Averett College and play basketball. And I said, "Wow, how did you find out about that?" He said, "Well, you remember Coach Mike Sandifer at Pike Central?" I said, "Yeah, little short guy, blonde hair. He was always screaming and hollering. I remember him." He goes, "Well, he's going out there," and he got in contact with me. And he goes, "Won't you give him a call and see what happens?" So basically, make a long story short, I called him, and he said, "Sure." He goes, "I like Indiana basketball players. Come on out." He goes, "We'll get you signed up, get you enrolled, we'll get you uniform." He goes, "I can't guarantee you'll play, but I'll get you uniform." So Larry and I went out together. We drove cars together out there. And
this is West Virginia or Virginia?
Virginia. Danville, Virginia.
Danville, Virginia.
Yeah, it is right on the border of North Carolina and Virginia, about 40 miles north of Greensboro. Beautiful town.
Right.
One of the old, one of the old Confederate capitals, I believe. But we go out there, and I was shell-shocked. We get to Averett College. It's a really old college. It used to be an all-girls college till about 1968, something like that. All-girls college, and it just happened to start boys basketball. And they had some good teams, but we go to the gym, and we walk in, and I'm like, "You've got to be kidding me." It is actually smaller than JFK. And the ceiling is so low that if you shot a half-court shot, you're going to hit the ceiling. But that's where we're going to play, and that's what we're here for. And Larry and I started playing our freshman year. Larry started right off the bat, and I would come off the bench. And about the sixth game of the year, Larry got hurt, turned his ankle really, really bad, and he had to set out for a while. Then I started. My first game starting, I had 33 points, and then I remember they sent the article back to the Tribune because they would always keep in touch, and they showed me a picture of me shooting a basketball, and in the background there's a big sheet over the window, so because on one side of our gym they had windows all the way up from ceiling to the floor. It was crazy because we only had like 400 people in there, but there's a big white sheet and it said Wag's Corner. All the guys I hung out with in the dorm sat right there, and they were just crazy, and I thought that was pretty cool. But at Christmas break, Larry decided to transfer to IU Southeast, and I stayed and played 4 years.
Became the school's all-time leading scorer?
For about 3 years, yes. All-time leading scorer until the three-point line came in. I think I had right around 1,400 points, but they three-point line came in, and I think a guy shattered that in 2 years.
So you graduate, around 1981?
1982. Actually.
1982. What's next?
Well, it's funny you asked that because when I was at Avery College, you do your senior profile. They ask you, what do you want to do? What are you going to do with your life? Where are you going to go? Are you going to move? Are you going to stay? We're here. If I had it to do over again, I might have stayed there and coached a little bit and stayed, but I just thought I'd better go home. I put down, I want to teach and coach at my high school. And when I put that down there, my supervisor said, why is that? I said, well, you have to experience my high school to understand. The atmosphere, the athletics, the community support. I said, it's just amazing. And he goes, well, I can understand that if that's what you want to do. And lo and behold, I got to do that.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I remember one time, right before I got married, all the guys at my wedding were coming from New York and Delaware. There's like 5 of them, and they came a week early. And I'm showing them around town. And of course, the first thing they wanted to do was go to French Lick and see where Larry Bird lived. We did that. Came back to the gym, and I showed them the gym, and they're just like amazed because one guy lives in New York, and he said, if I go to a high school game and there's 50 people there, that's a lot. I said, yeah. I said, you come to a high school game here, and this place is packed. And he just could not believe how big our gym was. Such a small town.
Yeah. So 1981, we had talked a little bit about your brother Rick.
Right.
And that he was in a tragic accident. Do you mind talking a little bit more about your memories, I guess, of hearing about it, getting the phone call?
Yeah.
He was how old? He was
maybe 26.
Yeah, young man.
He wasn't very old. Yeah. I was at school and
school at Avery.
And I'm pretty sure it was a Saturday. I can't remember because I know the sectional is still going on. Of course, my mom was there at the sectional.
Right.
And I got a phone call late that night from my Aunt Teresa Toy, and said that Rick had passed away in a car accident. And I was like, I just couldn't believe it. You're 10 hours away from home, and you get that kind of a phone call. And it was kind of a blur. I was on a plane the next day flying home, from Greensboro. I flew to Evansville, and it was pretty difficult at first because when you're 10 hours away and I probably hadn't seen him in 4 months, up until that point, and it was surreal to go to a funeral and that's the last time you saw him. But I do remember talking to my brother Denny about when they told mom. My mom was at the game at the sectional. Yeah. And they called out over the speaker.
That's what I remember.
That's never good when that happens.
No, it wasn't, and we were all concerned.
Yeah.
At that time, I remember not knowing, of course, what had happened, and then later to find out what we didn't want to find out.
Right.
It was terrible.
Yeah, he had just gotten a new job in Indianapolis. I think he was a manager of a Kroger store, and he was coming home to that weekend to pick up some more stuff, and him and his wife are moving all back to Indy, and tragic.
Yeah. So you graduate in '82.
Right.
Your first job after graduation was what?
Believe it or not, and this is something that I'll never forget. I did not have a let's say a secure job right away, so I thought, well,
what was your major, by the way?
Physical education and health. Got my degree.
There you go.
Yeah. And I thought, well, you know what? I do want to teach, and there was a couple openings that just didn't pan out here at Loogootee right away. So I thought, I'll substitute teach for a little bit, see how I like it. My very first substitute teaching job was at Shoals Kindergarten.
I didn't know that.
Oh, disaster.
Substitute teacher.
Yes, substitute teacher. Substitute teacher. It's a disaster. I walk in, and there's 20 little kids sitting there, and I'm like, okay, what am I doing? Lunch. I messed up the lunch count. I messed up this. I messed up that. Safe to say, it's the last time I did kindergarten substitute teaching. But I did that for a little bit, and I thought, you know what? I got to get me a job. So I actually worked for about 6 months at Kimball International.
Kimball Electronics.
Kimball Electronics.
I remember. Yeah.
Great job. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I worked night shift.
Yep.
But I was also coaching 7th grade basketball.
Okay.
So like I'd have a game, we'd get done. As long as I got down there by 11 o'clock and started I was fine. But games were over by 9, whatever. But I coached 7th grade basketball and I worked at Kimball Electronics. I actually got my CDL there first, and I drove a box truck from French Lick, Jasper, back and forth. They were making computer keyboards.
Right.
I mean, millions of them a week.
Oh,
I mean,
believe me, I know.
Yeah.
I worked there.
Okay, it was huge, and I didn't have to do anything. They load the truck up. All I had to do was drive it.
Yeah.
3 times a night. Take an hour and a half to lunch.
You know who did that most of the 20-some years that I worked there?
Yeah, Terry Walton.
Terry Walton.
Yep, he did the same job. Yeah, and great job. I mean, if I had never got into coaching and teaching, I'd have stayed. Probably great benefits. But that following summer, job opened up, and I got the I think it was lower elementary, or no, upper elementary, 4th, 5th, and 6th PE, and junior high, and then I started coaching. My very first coaching job, you don't know this, high school track.
High school track.
I know nothing about high school track. And
well, you got to run, or you got to throw.
Well,
you got to jump.
I learned very quickly how to do things and the rules, and I did that for 1 year. Of course, the very first thing they tell me to do, get your bus driver's license. I mean, that's the first thing I did before I ever set foot in the classroom, and I've been driving ever since. But which is pretty neat. But yeah, high school track, and then the baseball job opened up, and then I did baseball for 20 years. But at that same time, I was doing junior high basketball.
Yeah. Wow. So when did you join Coach Butcher on the bench?
I'm pretty sure if you look up there, it was 1990.
It was a pretty good year to be on the bench.
Yeah, oh yeah. I was junior high coach. I did 7th and 8th grade for like 3 years, and that was 73 through 77. Then I did, I think, 3 years of freshman coach, and that's when I started to get on the bench in 1990. And then I think my first year as a JV coach might have been 96 or 97. I can't remember, but I think I was on the bench with Coach Butcher for 18 years.
So very, very successful junior varsity coach. 2002 comes around and Coach says, I'm done. And the job opens up. You apply. Steve Brett applies. Difficult decision. And the decision was Steve Brett.
Right. Well, the weird thing about that whole situation was, you know, Steve was here a year or two before that job opened up as AD. Remember that?
Yes, that's right.
The first thing he told me when he got here, he says, and this is nothing against Steve. I think Steve did a great job, and I coach Steve. I like him. He said, I'm not here to be the next coach, because I want you to know that. But when the job opened up, he said, it just hit me. The drive was there. In the blood it was there, and I know when he got the job, a lot of people told me, quit, don't help. But you know what? I did not want that transition to be where there's animosity between coaches and, I'm stepping down because I should have got the job or whatever. Steve came to me as soon as he was hired. That very night he came to me and he said, look, he goes, if I'm not doing the coaching, he goes, I want you to do it. He goes, I want you to stay. He goes, if you want to be co-coach, that's fine with me. That would have been a title, co-head coach. I said, no. I said, you be the head coach. I'll be your varsity assistant. And that's when we started doing that as he was a coach. And Steve treated me like gold. I mean, he did. He really did.
But the school board meeting, very contentious. You had your followers there, and the expectation was that
I would step right
you
in.
were going to succeed.
Right.
And then, of course, the experience.
Right.
Coach Brett from varsity. But what I think at that point, it was not fun to watch because people loved Steve Brett, people loved Mike Wagoner, and now we were splitting.
Right.
And by Mike Wagoner staying on, and by the way, it turned out pretty well.
Yeah, it did.
But by Coach Wagoner staying on, the fractions were able to defract, if that's a word,
or and
come back together.
Yeah.
And I think for that, I will, and I think most people who remember that situation will forever be in debt to you.
Well, I appreciate that, because I did not want that to be detrimental to the community, and especially the basketball program, because of the success that we've had. And with the talent Coach Brett had coming back, you don't want something that's going to deter from all that concentration, and you don't want it to be in the paper all the time, this should have happened, and this should have happened. So when Steve talked to me that night, I said, sure. I said, I have no problem with that. Now, did it bother me? Yeah, it did. It really did. But I knew at some point down the line I was going to get my shot.
Yeah.
At,
So
whether 8 years or 10 years or whatever.
Yeah, well, it was 6 years, right?
6 years, yeah.
So you were on the bench, though, for the 2005 state run.
Right.
And never forget that game at Seymour, Hauser against Hauser, and Bart Hill's last second shot. And you were as quick as a rabbit.
Well, I'll tell you that much. I was excited as anybody. But what about the Bar Eve game in the sectional? We were down 15-0 after the first quarter.
Yep.
And I can remember like it was yesterday. I sat back in the chair, and I kept thinking, I got to start baseball on Monday because I was still baseball coach. And I'm like, I wasn't ready to do that.
Yeah.
You know, I thought we was going to make a good run, and we win that game
15-0.
15-0
against Bar Eve. Yeah, came back to win.
And I conceded. I hate to say it, but I conceded.
Sure.
I'm like,
good thing you weren't the head coach then.
Yeah, I know. I said, I got baseball on Monday.
Yeah.
Of course, if I was head coach, I'd been thinking differently. But anyway, that was a heck of a comeback. But you're right. In the Seminole State game against Seymour, what a crowd! I mean, you've got the Hatchets on one side, you got the other black and gold Loogootee on one side, and the Hatchets are cheering for us for a change, which was kind of neat. And
it was very neat.
It was just when Bart put that in, I remember running straight across the floor and grabbing Whitney and giving her a hug. Yeah. And my mom was right there on the bottom row, just going like this, you know, cheering a little heart out. And it was amazing. That I can go back and listen to your radio broadcast now. You can't even hear you guys.
No.
It is so loud. It is amazing.
Oh, I think you could because I was screaming.
Well, yeah.
But anyway, it was one of the highlights of my career, even though I was screaming. Yeah. But, you know, I was a fan, right?
Yeah.
So.
Now, you remember the state finals, don't you?
Well,
even though we got beat.
Lapel.
Yeah, but remember what the Hatchets did that night?
Oh, the last second shot? Luke Zeller, yeah.
Remember where I was sitting?
Where?
Right under the basket, because our team sat right there in the front row.
Wow.
And I was sitting there, I'm thinking, that's good. It looks good all the way. Yeah. I mean, that was the fun part of that game.
You know, and the crazy thing about that is you bring it up, anybody else would be just beside themselves, right? Jumping up and down. Luke Zeller pointed straight up.
Yep.
And that was it.
Yep.
You know, and he let his teammates come to him. Yep. And that was just one of the all-time great moments in high school basketball history.
Yeah, that will be etched in everybody's mind for years. Mm-hmm. And I remember walking over there and shaking Coach's hand, Coach Omer. He was just ecstatic because that was his last year.
Yeah.
You know, he was going to get out. Yeah. What a way to go out.
Mm-hmm. So Coach Brett kind of had a similar fate as you did.
Right.
Except you brought the ring home.
Yeah.
So his team goes something like 4-18 in 2008 and 9, right?
Remember that year? That was the year that was it Chris Taylor tore his ACL. He was
early
on the leading scorer.
Yeah.
And he couldn't play, which really bothered the rest of the team as far as continuity.
Yeah, I mean they're a fine team.
Yeah,
but just nothing went right for them, especially after that.
Because Barry barely beat us in the sectional that year.
Yeah. So Coach Brett is out.
Yeah.
Was there any other interviews? Were you the guy? What was the communication to you?
I don't remember if they interviewed anyone else.
Who came to you and said you're the coach?
Actually, Larry Whitecamp called me. I only had one interview, and honestly, I thought to myself, they can't give it to anybody else. I mean, this should be my chance.
Right.
If I hadn't gotten it, then probably I might have gotten out. But, he called me that night and said, "You're the man for the job, you know, and this is what we expect. This, and this, you know."
First phone call?
My first phone call?
Yeah.
Gosh, I can't remember that one.
I mean, you had to tell somebody. Obviously, you had family.
Well, I was at home.
Oh, you were at home when he called.
And Marcia and I were talking.
Yeah.
And I said I got it, and of course, then I told her, I said, "You realize
what that
now
means.
Responsibility is a little bit bigger, you know."
Yeah.
Because you're running a whole show. But no, I was excited. I really was, and I knew coming back from that team that was 4-18 or whatever that we had a lot of work to do. But man, we had a really good summer. You know, we started some guys that could really shoot the ball. Went to the IU camp, had a really good camp. I think we started out 4-0 that year, and then we played Forest Park here, and they had the Myers kid who used to be the coach of Vincent's Lincoln, and he was huge. And I'm going to give Tyler Trambaugh a little credit here on this interview, but Tyler came down. He came off the bench. He was a senior. Came off the bench, and in the second quarter alone, I think hit 4 threes. Now, mind you, this is off a fast break, which, you know, was like mind-boggling for everybody likes to see. But I remember like it was yesterday. He come down to the left corner and just bury threes. Kept us in the game.
Lefty, wasn't he?
Lefty.
Yeah.
Kept us in the game and hit a bunch of threes. I think we lost by about 7 or 8, but it was a heck of a game. But we were 4-0 going into that game, and that was a really fun game. And I was kid Tyler. I said, it's a darn good thing those shots went in because it was all fast breaks. You just don't do that.
Yeah.
Loogootee basketball.
But we hadn't won a sectional since
Right.
2005.
Right.
You're
Well,
still not winning a sectional.
Yeah, I think we were 12-9 that year.
Yeah.
Next year, Connor Whitmer's a freshman.
Yeah.
I
think things get a little better.
We go 16-4.
Yeah.
Had a great season. I think we lost to Bar Even in sectional, but we end up being 16-5, which we're still building.
Right. Right.
Next year, we got to win. We got everybody back. We got some people that are experienced now. Bryant's going to be junior. He's one of our leading scorers. Connor's bigger and stronger. We beaten North Davis in the regular season. I think we beat Bar Even in the regular season. As a matter of fact, we were 16-4 going in. Won our first game, 17-3 or 17-4, and of course, you face North Davis on their home floor, anything can happen. And I sometimes I go back and watch that game. We had a lead late in the game. We just missed a couple shots, and I can remember the last play like it was yesterday. Bryant drove baseline, got up to Connor, like we said, get it inside. You're going to foul him.
Yeah.
He got fouled. I'm going to say it to this day. He got fouled.
Yeah.
But he had the presence of mind to get his own rebound, and he just shot it too hard off the backboard.
Yeah.
And I always think to myself, if that shot had gone in and we won that sectional, would we have won the state the next year? I mean, would the desire be there? After what had happened, but we lost. It was a controversial ending, and
so
everybody expected us to win. Actually.
Yeah. So you were thinking, oh man, if he would hit that, we might have won the state.
Oh, we'd have made a good run.
So we lose. The admin at Loogootee, the administration's thinking.
I heard about it that night.
Yeah, that night.
I heard about it from people as I was walking off the floor.
So this is 2011.
Yeah. So the pressure's
end of
on.
season.
Yep.
Pressure's on. So you felt it.
Yep.
Did anybody from the school talk to you?
No. Not that night.
Well.
Yeah.
Yeah. But during that course of the off season, I guess, if you will, school board meetings again.
Right.
A lot of fun. Always are.
Yeah.
And things get heated again because it looks like coach is out.
Well, I think it was a situation where, I've been here all my life. We know how to win. We just lost a sectional and probably should have won it. And, it'd been what, 6 years?
2005.
Yeah.
Yeah.
6 years since we won one. And I see the frustration. There's nobody more frustrated than I was after that game. But I started getting these little things about, okay, you need to do this in your program and do that. Everybody was giving me suggestions.
Right.
I'm like, wait a minute, I've done this for 3 years. We've gotten consistently better. We lost a game we shouldn't have, which happens. But I understand, when you're at Loogootee, you better win. And it came down to it. I remember going to Florida on spring break. I was supposed to write my plan to get us back to where we were and why I should still be the coach, which I thought was ridiculous. I'm like, okay, I'll do it. I was told to do it, so I'll do it. So here I am on spring break, spending half of my day inside on a computer and getting all this done. I made 6 copies, gave them to the school board, I gave them to the athletic director, I gave them to the principal. And then I remember I got called into the principal's office, or athletic director's office, and he wanted to go over my overall season, when to give the overview.
Athletic director was Bill Powell.
Bill Powell.
Bill Powell,
Yeah.
that's right.
John Mullen was the principal.
Okay.
And he was given all the things that I should have done, what I didn't do, and things that could have been done better, your evaluation. And I'm like, no, wait a minute. For my first 2 years, I got tip-top evaluations. We go 12-9. We go 16-5. I did everything right. The program's in great shape. The lower grades are doing great. All the coaches are fine. Now, all of a sudden, when you lose a sectional, and your evaluation goes down.
Right.
Now, was that because that's the way it was, or is that because that's the way some people wanted to interpret it? So I was advised, and I'm not going to say who advised me, to not sign it. But I thought if I don't, they're going to fire me. So I went ahead and signed it. And by the time I signed that paper, and it got back to the principal and whoever else, it was on social media that there was a chance I might get fired. And I will thank Larry Henry till the day I die for getting that out there and getting the public aware of what was going on. And basically that helped the school board meeting and the crowd showing up and my support.
Yeah, I think we all remember the Loogootee Tribune picture, and Coach Wagoner gets a reprieve.
Yeah.
And thank God he did.
Yeah. But like I said, Greg, it all came down to the fact that we hadn't won a sectional. Yeah. And I get it. I was a player. You know, I've coached with Coach Butcher. I coached with, Coach Brett. And when you lose a game you're supposed to win, it hurts. You know, we probably should have won 2 more in Coach Brett's reign, but we just didn't get the job done, as far as players.
Better do a time check here.
9 o'clock.
Hey, this might be the longest one yet, but we're just now to the state championship season, so we're not leaving you yet.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun to talk about.
All right, so now your job is secure at least for 1 more year.
Right.
And you know what you have coming back.
Yep.
When did you realize that this better be the year to win a sectional? You knew that.
Yeah.
But this could be a year to win it all.
Well, this should be the year you win, but you also got to remember that North Davis and Bar River both ranked number 1 at some point during the season.
That is exactly
right. We got
right.
up to number 2.
Yeah.
But anyway, in the start of the season, we had a really good summer. I thought we did really well. Players came together. We went to a tournament at West Washington, of all places. I don't know why we went there, but we did. And we got in the loser's bracket right away, but we won like 6 games in a row. Got to the final game on Saturday, and Bryant had already told me that he had a baseball tournament. I said, hey, go ahead. We'll let everybody else play. And we almost won that championship game without Bryant. So I thought that's a good sign. So anyway, we get to the practice, we get into the season. We started to get close to the season. Not a very good first game of the year. And then we have our tournament. You've got Evansville Harrison. You've got Fern Creek from Louisville. You've got I forget the other name.
Well, another Louisville team.
Another Louisville team, and Loogootee.
Yeah.
So it's probably one of those things where, man, you really overschedule. I mean, you've got all these powerhouse teams, and basically they're all either 3A or 4A schools. And Harrison's always good. And
they were good that year.
Yeah, they had
the Duncan.
Duncan boy, and his brothers played years after. But anyway, we get through that first game in the morning. Pleasure Ridge Park, that's who it was.
There you go.
And what a game that was. And I felt pretty confident, going in that final game, especially after Fern Creek got beat by Evansville Harrison. I was like, when they scored 115 points.
They liked it. They liked both Louisville schools.
I like my odds better against Harrison. But anyway, against Harrison, I thought, all we got to do is just play our game, and be smart. We're about the same size. Might have been a little bit bigger than them, as a matter of fact, overall. But I do remember Bryant, of all people, you're all playing your 3rd game in less than 24 hours. We had played Friday night. I don't know who scheduled that game. They got a tournament on Saturday. But this is your 3rd game in 24 hours. And you shouldn't have any legs. And when he got that steal and dunked the ball late in the game, I was like, man, this kid's going to be special. I mean, he scored 20 points in every game already. But when we won that tournament, I thought to myself, we can make a nice run if everybody stays healthy. Of course, you know what happened toward the end of the season with Matt getting mono and all that. But I thought we could do a pretty good job of making a good run. Go to Forest Park, and of course we have a hard time winning down there, and probably should have won that game. But I did not get concerned when we lost to Bar River on our home floor, even though we had a lead in the ball with about 40 seconds to go, and threw it away. We hadn't made our lineup change yet. We just laid an egg that game and lost it, and they were ranked number 1 at that point because we had beaten North Davis before that.
Number 1.
They were number 1, so Bar River jumped over.
I think 2 Friday nights in a row here playing the number 1 team.
Yeah, so Bar River jumped to number 1. Should have beat them, but as you go late in the season, I was really happy with how they adjusted. You beat a really good Jasper team, We did lose to Orleans, but Matt did play that game, and that kid went crazy with 6 3-pointers. And I felt good about the tournament coming up. And when the draw came out, I was happy. We're probably going to play bar even Friday night.
Yeah, I wasn't as happy. You're right.
I knew we could play with them.
Yeah, I think did we were the ones to get the bye.
Yeah.
And if Bar Eve won, we played them Friday night.
Right.
And I think at that time they were number 1.
Yep.
We might have been number 2, but anyway.
I think we were. Yeah.
Yeah, but that was my concern. Is here comes another year. It's Bar Eve. We're one and done. Now what?
Now what's going to happen?
But we dominated.
Well, we didn't dominate at first, but
no, not at first.
We got down a little bit, but I just think they were so determined, and I think that game was when Bryant really said, "This is my team, and this is what's going to happen."
Yeah.
I mean, every key play, every key rebound, he was involved in. I thought, I thought they all did their job great. We can go by player, and they all know who they are, but they all did their job great. And that might have been one of the most satisfying wins I've had as a coach, that particular game, because they're number 1. They'd beaten us in the regular season, and if we get by them, there's no stopping us. We were supposed to play North Davis in the final game.
Yeah, we thought.
But the Grays kid was hurt, and Scholes knocked them off.
They did.
The rest is history.
Yeah. So you talked about the lineup change. You had a senior in Austin Bradley who'd been battling some injuries, I think a leg maybe.
Right.
And you made the change mid-season or so, well, after the Bar Eve game.
Well, actually, it was right after the Reveille game. Remember, we played Reveille, then we played North Davis coming up. And that's the first game Collins started.
I mean, it was past the Bar Eve game. Yeah. So, was there a discussion with Austin? Did there need to be a discussion with Austin as to what was going on, or because of the injury, it was just an opportunity to?
When he got the concussion,
that's what it was.
At Vincent Reveille.
Concussion.
Of course, he just couldn't play. That's we kind of inserted Colin in there, and Colin had a nice game, so we started Colin the next game, and he kind of just slid in there and took control of that job. It's almost like, okay, Colin's going to get his shot now. Austin, you got to come back and get it. Well, Austin, I mean, don't get me wrong, Austin did great that year. He gave us everything he had, but I just don't think he fully recovered. He had a leg injury, he had the concussion. I think he turned his ankle the week before sectional, if I'm not mistaken, and couldn't hardly play. But I'll never forget this as long as I live. He was frustrated in the sectional. I understand that because he didn't get a lot of playing time. But we had our 7-man rotation, and we were sticking with that. And I remember on the bench after the game, he looked dejected. I put my hands on his shoulders and I said, "Austin," I said, "you're every bit as part of a big reason for us winning this as anybody else." Right. I said, "Do not forget that." The following week, we're playing Evansville Day, and they have this left-handed guard who is as quick as ever, can shoot from anywhere. We'd already scouted him. We thought that might be an opponent. And that week in practice, I made Austin that player. I said, "Whenever you get the ball, I don't care where you are, pull up, crossover, drive, shoot it, shoot threes, whatever." We couldn't stop him. I mean, he literally outscored us in every practice game. And I said, that's exactly why when we played him, I mean, we knew he could do it, but we knew what to expect. And after he got his first 8 or 9 points, we kind of held him in check. And I said, "Austin, that's a big reason why we won that game." And he talks about that to this day.
Yeah. So we'll jump through the regional, although it was, as I said, Bryant Ackerman was Brian Canada-like from the early 70s and was just unbelievable. But 2 great games. And then again, you talk about the atmosphere. Now we go up to Southport High School and play Edinburgh. And again, it's just one of those field houses that is just crazy. And what a ball game that was. I mean, both teams were, you play 5 games, we might win 3.
Right.
But we won that one.
Right.
And that was a tough one to get.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we got up early and then we got down. And of course, every Loogootee fan who's ever watched that game remembers the back-to-back threes within, 6-7 seconds. And the steal, the Willinante steal. And to this day, I had never seen that steal until I saw it on replay. Because I was telling everybody to get back on defense after Matt hit after Connor hit the 3. And then that was just a sequence that will always live in the minds of a lot of Lion fans because it was such a great atmosphere. And they were just shell-shocked. Once we got the lead, they didn't know what to do.
Right.
And if you remember now, and you go back and watch that game, after we got the lead, they took 5 very quick shots, and guess who got every rebound?
Brian Ackerman.
Brian Ackerman.
Yeah.
And he'd get fouled, and he'd go to the line, he'd go to the rim.
Mm-hmm.
I think he outscored him by himself in the last 5 minutes.
Salting it away at the free throw line.
Yep.
Yeah. And in the state final game, wow.
Yep.
You know, I mean, Rockville, in the beginning, I thought we were going to blow them out.
Well, we probably should have.
Yeah.
But you know when I knew we were going to win that game? Was the week before watching
When
tape.
the scoreboard said 0-0-0?
No, week before watching tape, and Dave Smith and John Casper and Noah Callahan and Jordan Hawkins can all attest to this. We're watching a video of Rockville in the semi state, I think. And I kept thinking to myself, there's nobody inside who's going to guard Connor. Okay, because I know their big kid's really good and all that, but he doesn't like to play inside defense, you know, and belly up. And I said they can't keep Connor down. And if Connor hadn't gotten in foul trouble, I think he would have gotten 30 and 15. I really do. And I said, and I think Bryant is the best player on the floor of the 10 that are going to be out there. You know, Bryant gets 15 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists, and all the newspapers said he had a bad game.
Right.
Well, we'll take that every day. But you know, you're in the state finals and anything can happen. But I told Dave Smith that night, we're watching that tape, I said, we're going to win. He looked at me, he goes, you're crazy. You know, of course, Dave is always, you know, telling me the opposite, trying to get, you know, reverse psychology. He goes, you're crazy. I said, no, we're going to win. I said, they can't guard Bryant, they can't guard Connor. And if it wasn't for a few, what I call no calls late in the game that we got up until that point in the tournament, we would have beat them 10-12 going away. But it was just, I don't know. Throughout the game, I was so focused on the game, I can't remember what I did, what I said, but I remember, you know, thinking that we're going to win this. When Matt hit that 3 into the third quarter.
Yeah. Well, I think we got up by 10, did we not? And
got up 11, I believe.
Yeah, 11 points, and then it took a last-second shot that they missed.
You know, I did not watch the last-second shot. During the timeout, I remember when, you know, Bryant knocked the ball out of bounds, they called timeout. We're sitting there talking, all the coaches, and 3 of the 5 coaches said, let's foul and don't let him get a 3 off. Okay? And I'm thinking like, but you know, so many crazy things happen when you hit the first one and miss the second one and bounces back. What if they throw up a 3 and hit at the buzzer? I said, let's just take our chances. I said, let's just tell them to switch every screen. And I said, it's simple. If your man screens, you switch and you jump out. Well, Matt did that, got on him, and you know, the rest is history. But as they took it in bounds, and I saw that kid get the ball at the top of the key, I turned and faced the bench. I faced the bench. I didn't look. All I know is John Casper picking me up and giving me a bear hug, you know, and I heard the crowd, so I knew it was over. But I thought if we go overtime, man, we had the game the whole time. I did not want to go overtime.
Yeah, I was watching just today the replay or the back end of the replay of the IHSAA telecast. And they were talking, Greg Rakestraw, who we had as an Indiana neighbor, did the game. And they were talking about him, Bob Lovell, how you look calm on the outside, but on the inside you had to be tearing down.
I was a nervous wreck.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you go from a point in the game with about 4 minutes to go, you got an 11-point lead. We're going to salt this thing away, game's over. And then all of a sudden it's down to 1, or down to 3, down to 2, down to 1. And I'm like, I mean, to our credit, we didn't panic. We knew after 2 minutes we didn't have any timeouts left. And man, I don't know how many times we told them during timeouts or dead ball situations, do not call timeout. Because you see that happen all the time with high school kids. They panic. You know, we didn't have any timeouts left. But, you know, I got to give them all the credit for sticking to it. And, you know, I always kid Waylon Matthews. I said, Waylon, you know what? I said, I played in the state finals more than you did, but you know what you did that I didn't do? I said, you scored 2 points. You scored 2 big points. I'm always kidding them about that, you know. And the kids, it's got to be a great feeling for that to happen to them.
So soon after, your family got together on the floor with that big bear hug.
Yeah.
I don't know how much was said, but I'm guessing a river of tears, right? I mean, everybody had to have been thinking, yes, state championship, but golly, it took what it took to get here, even to be on the bench.
Well, and what it took my family to go through.
Right,
know,
exactly.
For 6 months. And then I remember when I broke away from the bear hug, Whaley gave me a hug. She says, Dad, she said, I'm so proud of you. And she goes, but I'm sorry, we're leaving for Florida. I can't go home and celebrate, because I knew they were leaving right away.
Oh, she missed the celebration.
Yeah, she missed
the
celebration.
She
missed a big one. But it was a great situation. And you know, what's funny is when after you win, you always go to the press room and have a little interview. And it was I think me, Bryant, Connor, and Matt, and we're sitting there talking. And of course, I went first. And the first question this guy from the Star asked me, he says, "Well, Coach," he said, "what would you like to tell the people back home?" And I said, "Well, first of all, there's nobody back home. They're all here."
Yeah.
I said, "There might be a few back there." And I said, "Well, I tell you what, we're going to have a big celebration when we get home tonight, and everybody's going to talk." And he said, "Well, what will you say?" I said, "Well, I'm going to ask the administration for three things. I'm going to ask for a raise, a 3-year contract, and a car to drive all year like Coach Butcher got back in 1970. And of course he started laughing. I said, no. I said, I'm not going to ask that. I said, because A, I won't get it, but B, it will be a great celebration. And I said, everybody's ecstatic. And I remember one time, after I got through talking, I got a text or something. I think it might have been from Eric or somebody. He said, everybody's crying in the stands.
Yeah.
He said, everybody's just crazy.
Yeah.
Everybody's just so happy.
I mean, it was just
finally got it,
And like I said in a view from the booth, past generations didn't get to see that.
Oh yeah.
And they were some of our biggest Lion supporters ever, right?
Yeah.
And they didn't get to see it.
And the thing about that is, I think as happy I was for our players and for me to be a part of it, I was so happy for the fans because so much frustration was lifted. We finally got one. I don't care if it's class or not. We finally got one, and everybody's just. I mean, it was going to be one heck of a week.
Yeah.
A weekend.
I remember you talked about your good friend Richard Bledsoe, and I know you know this, but I remember meeting him in the celebration up here, and Richard, haven't seen you in years. He was listening to the game in Alabama, right? And said he had to come back home for his hometown celebration.
He
drove from the end of the game until our celebration.
Huntsville, Alabama.
And that's, and those are the things that bring tears to my eyes. I mean, that's just amazing.
Those are the things that make this community special, and that's why when I was a senior in college, I said, I want to go back there and teach and coach. I said, first of all, I had a great 4 years in high school, academically, and being with friends, and the whole school atmosphere. But even more so, being a part of a team. The baseball teams of Coach Nante, we were always so good, and the basketball teams of Coach Nante and Coach Butcher. That atmosphere in itself makes growing up in Loogootee, if you're a boy, that much special. I mean, much more special because that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, you did it as a young age. Yeah. You want to play high school sports at Loogootee.
So, but I guess 3 years later, you're no longer the coach.
Yeah.
I don't want to go into too much about that, just unless there's anything you have to add. But
not necessarily. Ever just, the following year we're expected to go a long way. Had a really good season.
Right.
And just played a very good Bar team in the sectional and couldn't hit our shots and got beat in the final game. It's one of those things. Did I hear anything after that? Not necessarily. But it could have gotten a little hairy. The next year we had some situations occur where we lose some players and we had a very bad season and there were some things that went on behind the scenes that kind of I thought to myself, you know what? I've been doing this for 30 years, and I really enjoyed coaching the varsity and doing that by myself. I said, but it's time to let somebody else do it. I mean, and it was nothing against anybody or administrators or the school or anything.
But you obviously stayed very close to your school.
Yeah.
You weren't coaching on the bench for the varsity, but you were very involved in other ways. You were driving the team, still are.
Yeah.
You were still teaching at the time.
Yep.
Right? When did you retire teaching?
3 more years after that.
3 more years. Yeah. Even then, though, you substitute teach.
Right.
How many days a week on average for you?
If I would let them, it'd probably be 5 days a week because they always need a sub. But usually 4, but there comes a point where you got to be careful how much money you make and all that. Yeah. But on the average 3 to 4 days a week. We do radio together, which I love doing that. We have such a great time.
Well, I was trying to think when did that start for you? Do you remember?
That's a good question. I was wanting to think about 2017 or 18 maybe?
I can't really remember how that evolved, and that's what happens. These things sometime evolve, and
but that was another way to stay involved.
Yeah. I mean that's
you always ask me when we do a baseball game, do you miss coaching baseball? And I said, yeah, I really do, but I don't miss having to be out in the field preparing 2 hours early and stuff like that. But
you get to coach it on the radio, right?
Well, that's true. I mean, I can give my opinion on radio quite a bit.
You too.
But it's fun because now we watch the game as spectators, but we can also say this and this.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I love it when you ask me my opinion about
Right.
certain situations because you know I can say this, but I'm never going to talk about a coach not making the right decision because that's what coaches do. They make decisions all the time, good or bad. But I might give my opinion, say, you know, we could have done this or whatever.
But I was thinking the other night when we were at Northeast DuBois, even in the middle of the game, I was saying something, you were saying something. I was saying
Right.
something, you were saying something. And I'm thinking, this is the first game of the year, and we're really into it.
Oh yeah.
And I'm thinking you're really into it. And I just think that's fantastic.
Well, I don't know where my life would be without sports. It's all I ever did growing up. It's all I've ever done, you know, as a coach or a parent or as an adult. I enjoy watching Loogootee teams. I don't care if it's boys or girls or if it's ping pong or paddleball or pickleball where they play nowadays. I want them to be successful. And if I can be somehow a part of that, that's great. You know, last year, Coach Haywood asked Coach Smith and I if we would coach the 8th grade team. And, you know, at first I thought, do I have the time to do it? Do I want to do it? And I actually told Dave, I said, look, I'll be your assistant. I said, there'll be times when I can't be there. He goes, well, I understand that. But, man, we had such a fun time with a great group of kids, very, very talented. I think they went 26-3, but we had so much fun coaching those guys. And, you know, it was so funny because in the course of a game, he'd be up saying something, then I get up and say something. And I'm like thinking, well, now it's his turn, and I'm going to suggest things to him, you know. Yeah. And we did. We talked about things like we did when I was a coach, and he was my assistant. We just bounced stuff off each other. You know, Dave's a great guy, and he's still involved. And we're both doing it again this year. He's 8th grade, and I'm 7th grade, and I'm looking forward to it.
Well, when you think about that, it's almost come, to me, full circle from the Lee Kavanaugh days.
Yes.
Now, I can't compare you to Lee Kavanaugh just yet.
No, I don't have 700 wins.
Not yet. But at the same time, you and Coach Smith have the experience that junior high level, and you and I both know that is such an important time for development of basketball here. And to have experienced coaches like you guys, the state championship coach coaching 7th grade, are you kidding me?
Well, like I told Dave, I said, you know, it's kind of funny, you know, we all started in junior high and come back, and now we're back in junior high. But it's less stressful. The kids listen real well. And like you said, it's very important at that level to stress fundamentals and doing the things the right way. You know, I can remember Coach Kavanaugh talking about rocker step and power layups. You know, nobody uses those terms anymore, but that's what it was, and that's how you got better because you did it over and over and over until you did it right, and that's what we try to instill in these players.
And then you and Coach Smith were both installed into the Ring of Honor down at the
that was a lot of fun
golf scholarship, and he knew that you were getting in. You knew that he was getting in. Is that right? But both of you were surprised to actually get in.
Right. And I, you know, when Tracy called me and said, hey, he goes, we're going to put Dave in the Ring of Honor this year. And I kept thinking to myself, okay, what do you want from me? He goes, would you introduce him? I said, sure. Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, are we both going to get in this year?
Yeah, you had to be thinking.
I had to be thinking, but you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't know, but you know, getting the state finals team in there, you know, I'm really kind of sad everybody couldn't be there, but everybody had some other things to attend to. But it was nice to everybody there, and then Dave and I going at the same time was pretty neat. But it's a privilege to be part of that. I mean, there's some really prestigious names on that list, and I'm always appreciative of all that they've been given to me. But you know, that's another thing. What a great situation that is. Our Butcher G Golf Scramble is just amazing. It still goes. And it's a great time. Everybody's there and they have fun. And you know, you got to MC this year a little bit on radio, didn't you?
I have last couple years.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Well, broadcast. I don't know about MC.
Right.
But yeah. No, that's a lot of fun.
That's pretty cool.
Only in Loogootee. Right. I mean, goodness.
Who else does JV basketball games?
I know. I know. So let's get back to the personal side. So your children, obviously, very, very proud.
Oh yeah.
Now you have grandchildren.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about your kids. Where are they? What are they doing now?
Well, you know, and I have to give a lot of credit to Marcia. You know, Marcia and I were married for 24 years, and there are a lot of times, you know, it's just the way Coach's life is. She raised them a lot on her own, and I'm so thankful and proud of what she's done for our kids. I can remember her reading to them every night. Every one of our kids read to them, and I'm not bragging on my kids, but I don't know how they're all straight A students because I wasn't,
Mm-hmm.
But I did my job, but they were all great students. Whitney is the proud mother of Bonham and Ruby.
Nothing like it, is there?
Oh, it's amazing. It's just like you said. You told me that. It's just amazing. Her and Rick Lyons are probably going to get married here pretty soon. Rick's he's a great guy, and they live in town. She works for Crane, has a great job. Bonham will turn 4 in September the 4th.
Is he T-ball yet?
Yes, he played this year.
Played T-ball already. Okay.
Didn't quite master it, but he played, and he's learning. But
give him a year or two.
He really enjoyed it. Ruby is going on, I think, 4 months now.
Wow.
Growing like a weed. Willie is married and living in Indianapolis. He kind of a travel nurse and works here and there. His wife Sarah is in publicity. I can't remember what company she works for, but she does a lot of travel sometimes. They have a young daughter, Rory. It's my 3rd grandchild, so seen her a couple times. They're going to be coming down pretty soon, but he loves it up there. They live right around the Butler area. As a matter of fact, he bought Butler season tickets, so I'll be probably going to a couple games this year, hopefully. Winter works for Crane. She had been in Florida for about 2 years, but she's now back in Loogootee, still working for Crane, and wanting to move to Indianapolis. And she has some friends up there. She's wanting to move up there and buy a house, so she's looking at a house up there. But she has a really nice job, and she's doing really well. Whaley is in Memphis right now. Her boyfriend plays professional soccer for the Memphis Soccer Club.
No kidding.
Yep. And it's kind of like a AAA. When you go baseball, you go to the next level. He's just right to the next level. He's looking to try to go to MLS. But they live in Memphis, and she is finishing her master's in hearing impaired, or not hearing impaired. Can't remember right now. But
physical therapy? No. Anyway, we'll remember. Yeah.
She's getting her master's, and
as long as you know.
Yeah, she's doing very well. And then my son Waden, he is a senior at Interlochen.
He's a senior?
He's a senior. Well, he's been a senior here this year, but he's a senior up there.
Oh, in high school. That's right.
In high school.
That's right. That's right.
Interlochen Performing Arts School. And
how difficult a decision was that? To allow him to go.
It was different. Put it that way. I mean, he was so locked into going there.
Yeah.
And you want him to be somewhere where he's going to flourish.
Yeah.
And get more time.
So just real quick, for those who don't know, Waden is a spectacular talent in the arts, in music, in drama.
Performing, yeah.
And so much so that at the beginning of his junior year, he went to Interlochen, Michigan, is that right?
Yep.
At a performing arts school?
Private school, yeah.
Okay.
And what they have in the mornings, like they'll have an English class and a math class, and the rest of the day it's all performing, singing, acting, dancing, voice lessons, whatever. It's all in the performing area. So basically, it's a high school college for performing arts. I think they have 3 or 4 plays a year they do, and they have you have to audition and do all that. But he was in 2 of them last year and enjoyed every minute of it.
So his aspirations is acting,
singing, musicals,
Broadway
performing.
maybe.
Yep, I hope. He went to visit a college in New York this summer with Marcia, and he went to Cincinnati. Performing School of Arts College down there. He loves Cincinnati. Be a nice place to go. But I asked him, what criteria? I mean, is it SAT scores and all that? He goes, well, it's not really your academics, although he's a straight A student. It's you got to audition to get in.
Right.
I mean, you got to go in there and just blow them away to be accepted. So I don't think he's going to have a problem with that. I tell you, he performed the other night at the Cherry Ghost Cafe. Is that what it's called?
Washington.
And he is so into performing and doing the song the right way. I mean, his facial expressions, his movements. I mean, he's just very, very into it, and I'm very proud of him, what he does. All my kids played baseball, softball, basketball, track, cheerleading, whatever, and he got to a point one time where he was worried that I thought that he should have played basketball or baseball. I said, you do what you want. I said, you do what makes you happy, and acting and performing and singing is basically his forte, and I'm really proud of him. I always kind of kid him because I told him, I said, for your senior song, whatever, at school here, before he moved, I said, I want you to do a song for me. He said, what's that? I said, well, it's a Freddie Mercury song. He goes, are you kidding? I said, no.
Yeah.
I said, you could do it. I said, you could really do it. He said, I don't know, Dad. And I still am going to try to see if they'll do it up there.
Oh, he didn't do it.
No, he didn't do it.
Okay. What song are you looking at?
You Want to Live Forever?
Okay.
I think he can do it. And I remember talking to Miss Mosby about it. She goes, "Oh, there's no doubt he could do it." In his mind, he goes, "I can't sing like Freddie Mercury." I said, "I know you can't sing like Freddie Mercury, but you can do the song like Freddie Mercury."
Yeah. Okay. So typically, when we come to the end, we give the guest just a kind of an open forum. If there's anything, I can't imagine there's nothing we didn't talk about in these 2 hours, basically. But anything that we didn't talk about, anything that you feel like you'd want to talk about, the forum's yours.
No, I just think that, being from a small town like Loogootee has its advantages, because I just think the atmosphere of growing up in this community and living with people that are so friendly and you've been around all your life and feeling comfortable is the most important thing. It's very important to me. I mean, I could have gone somewhere a long time ago and coached somewhere else. And I wouldn't have been happy. The 1 year when I was assistant coach for Mark Rohr at South Knox, I really enjoyed that, but it was different. It was a whole different atmosphere. I'm not saying it wasn't as good. It wasn't. It wasn't as good. It wasn't the atmosphere that I was used to. Yeah. Plus the fact next year, my daughter was cheering at IU. I wanted to watch her a lot, so I really didn't have time to help Mark. But I enjoyed being with Mark. He's a great coach. But I just think being here in Loogootee, people always ask me, "Why did you ever move away? Why didn't you go somewhere else?" I didn't want to. I'm like you. I love being here. It's an atmosphere where, like I said, if you've never experienced it, you wouldn't understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you.
We try to get somebody. You all know his story, but is there anything maybe that we didn't talk about that nobody really knows that would surprise them?
About me?
Yeah, about you.
I don't know if there's anything out there that
I'm sure Whitney right now is saying, "Oh, come on, Dad, you know."
Yeah, Whitney's probably shaking her head and thinking, "Sure, Dad." But no,
no hidden talents.
Well, I remember in 6th grade I sang the Green Beret song in the I guess the fall musical or whatever. I really like to sing. Oh, one other thing, my first major in college at Indiana State was English, believe it or not. I like to write stories. I wrote stories all the time in high school, and I really loved writing stories and making up things. But
do you do anything with that today?
No, I don't. I am going to write a book though, and I've talked to John Mullen about this. He might be my what you call it, ghost writer.
Yeah, it'd be a good one.
Yeah. He's talked about it. But I've talked to Dave Smith about it.
So what are you talking about? Kind of your life, just like we went through, Coach. I mean, I did all this work for nothing.
Actually, it's going to be about our state-run title and what happened before, during, and after. Okay. And I think you're going to like it. Okay. It's going to take me a while, but it's going to be nice.
Well, you got to start first.
It won't be in the caliber of Jack Butcher's book, but
when are you going to start that?
I've started a few of it. I just write things down every now and then, but I would say within a year or so it'll be done. All right. See, I told John Mullen this last year. Yeah. But I said it's going to take me a while. But I'm really excited.
You got a title for it?
Yeah, but I'm not going to tell you what it is.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'll keep that a secret for a while.
Well, we know something new now about our Indiana neighbors, state championship coach, and a whole lot more. Coach Mike Wagoner.
Thank you, Greg.
Well, that's this edition, probably our longest one yet, and we hope that we have everything recorded. We thank you for watching, getting to know your Indiana neighbor.